All right, great. First off, I'd like to thank you for doing this interview with the Hype Magazine tonight.
Absolutely. I appreciate you for having me. Definitely appreciate you for bringing me on, man. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, and to get started, can you tell the fans and listeners who you are and where you're from?
Yes, sir. So my name is Tavon. Everybody call me Tay. From Detroit, Michigan, and I'm the
All right.
host of Talk with Tay podcast.
Dope. Now, with you being from Detroit, Michigan, do you think it made it harder for you or easier for you to get into the entertainment industry?
Oh, it definitely made it easier for me, just growing up with the influence and the culture of Detroit on the music side, you know what I mean? Just seeing that as a kid, and even now, it was just like, everybody got that hustle. So I was just like, I know I can do it if I at least try.
Now I know you're actually accomplished in two different areas, so we're going to highlight both of those. So I want to go into your baseball first. So what got you started in being the baseball, and what showed you that you had the potential to become successful at it?
So yeah, I grew up. I grew up a hooper playing football, and when I got to high school was the first time I actually played baseball. You know what I mean? I was just looking for something else to do. And my man's, he kept like begging me to come to the practice, and I wasn't really fucking with it. So one day I showed up, and I was actually good at it. I was a pitcher, and I threw the hardest on the team. Granted, I played in, the inner city, so everybody wasn't that good, but I was above the talent level for somebody who never played. So I just fell in love with it like instantly, you know what I mean? And I kept playing my last 2 years at high school. I started playing when I was 15, so I was a sophomore. Played those 2 years, found the junior college to go to right out of high school. And, from there, I kind of just progressed with the game, end up getting an opportunity to play professional at the independent level. So, yeah.
That's dope. Now, with you being from Detroit, like you said, everybody else was doing football and basketball. So when you fell in love with baseball, how did your family react to that? Were they excited as they would with the other sports, or were they not familiar with it? What was the response?
Yeah, it was definitely different for everybody. You know what I mean? Because me personally, a lot of people in Detroit didn't really have much exposure to baseball, but there was a small crowd. But me, it was just football or hooping. You know what I mean? That was just the only things. But I came home one day, I told my pops, I'm like, look, I made the team. I didn't even make the team at the time. I was just still going to the practice. I was like, I'm on the baseball team. Can we go get me a glove and shit? He like, what you mean baseball? Like, and my mama at the time, rest her soul, she was like, baseball, that's different. And then I started telling everybody was fucking with it, like for real. So that made it even more easier, and it made it experience more fun and just, kind of sticking with it. So yeah.
Now, how did you become a pitcher? You said you were throwing the hardest of everybody on the team, but like, are you specialists at a fastball, a curveball? Like, how did you catch their eye to be a pitcher in the first place?
So my high school coach, Coach Orr, shout out to Coach Orr. We was hitting off the tee, and I was the only left-handed person on the team at the time, and I didn't know this, so I picked up the bat, and I'm about to hit. Granted, I don't know what I'm doing, but he snatched the bat out of my hand. He was like, "You left-handed?" I'm like, yeah. You feel me? I'm thinking I'm in trouble. He was like, no, get this bat away from me. You just became a pitcher. And I'm like, oh, and my inside, I'm happy as hell. Because I'm like, this is what I really wanted to do. Because I played quarterback, but again, I ain't know nothing about baseball. But he told me I was a pitcher from that day forward. The next game I was starting, it was like 2 days later, and I did pretty good. It was against Cass Tech in Detroit. So yeah, it was fun, man.
That's amazing. So when you become a pitcher, like we all have those horror stories of facing somebody, up 3, the count 3-3, and you got a moment where you were able to, throw that fastball and strike the person out. You remember one of those moments that kind of stood out to you where, the odds were against you and your team may have been struggling, but you were able to pitch your way. You hear a lot of pitchers save games. So what's one of your stories for you?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started out playing, again, I'm new to the sport, so it was a big adjustment, bro. I had a lot of adversity, those first 2 games. I did good for somebody who's never played, but we still lost, and I wasn't able to, pick it up. And then, I started to feel all the pressure, people side talking and, saying different things. But that next game roll out, man, I just shoved. I had 16 strikeouts against Henry Ford Academy, a school called Henry Ford Academy. And I was just, I was shoving. And that put a fire in me because, again, I'm new to the sport. In those 2 games, I was angry. And I'm like, damn, I ain't really that good at this. But I stuck with it. And then I just, you feel me, I killed it that following game. And then after that, it was just history. You know what I mean?
Can we give any insight for someone? Maybe there's a kid out there who wants to be in baseball and thinking about being a pitcher. Is there like one or two things you did to perfect your craft to where you be able to get into, you know, the your college, what you got into, and then your professional stuff you're doing? Like, was there any kind of tools you used or tricks of the trade you were able to come up with that helped you excel?
Yeah, I would definitely say, you know, grow into your body. That's something that I didn't really understand early on. I actually didn't really get that good at baseball, like from a baseball player's perspective, till I was like 24, if I'm being honest. You know what I mean? Because I was still filling out, you know, who I was, and, you know, still learning things about how I move and everything. So the biggest thing I would say is, you know, listen to your body, take care of it, you know, get strong, stay in the weight room, man, and throw a lot. You know what I mean? As a pitcher, that's your job, to throw. So you got to learn how to throw before you could pitch. So I would say just stay on the grind and, you know, get those reps in, because it's a lot of talent out here, man, and you're easily replaceable in this game. So I would just say just stick with it and really put in the work.
Now, you went to Kentucky State University. I seen you guys 2022 Division II champion. So you're sitting here humble, like, you know what I mean? Like, you ain't that man, but you're a champion at what you do. What was that experience like with your team traveling, going through the World Series? Can you take us through the little journey of what it was like to win that championship?
Man, that was probably, you know, I played 6 years of college baseball, you know, due to injuries and all of that stuff. That was easily the best week of my life, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. Baseball, and in every aspect, that was the best week of my life. Like, because we almost didn't make the tournament. You know what I mean? We one team had to lose, which was Savannah State, and they had lost that same weekend that we were playing, but they were number one in the conference. So you know what I mean? So
yeah, you would have thought they had won.
Yeah, they were supposed to be there. Then we get that call during the midweek and was like, "Yeah, we going." You know, they paid for everything, sent the bus, travel, everything. We went there and we just killed it, man. Like, and we were struggling towards the end of the season too. So that's what made it so special. Like, you know what I mean? And then we got there and it's like, you know, something, you know, another gear turned on for us. In that first game, we came out, we beat the number one seed. We smacked them, them, dating them out. It was Miles College. They beat the shit out of us a few times in the early season too. So we smacked them, boom. Now everybody looking at us different, you know what I mean? The next day go out, because we won, we had to sit out, you know, the rest of the day, you know what I mean? So the next day come out, we beat Bluefield State in Virginia. They were a good team too. They were the number 2 seed, the Division II. Smacked them in the mouth too, and then we just kept rolling. And then the last game, man, I still remember, you know, that feeling that, you know, that last pitch, man. Shout out to my boy Deshaun Brady. Those are some of our top guys, and that's at that time. But man, they shoved, and I still got the footage. I had this little GoPro camera. I was, you know, we run into home plate, man. It's still on YouTube and everywhere too. Man, we were like super hyped, but that was probably the best time of my life, man. Just being playing against other HBCUs as well too, and just being out there for a week and just enjoying, you know, enjoying the moment with it. So yeah.
That's dope. And I wanted to highlight that for you because, you know, we all were sitting here watching our favorite teams and they're on the bubble. And, you know, if they win and then they need all these other factors going, you're like, well, how do they stay focused? So for your guys' team, at that moment, you guys can only control what you control, and you needed a lot of help. How did you guys stay positive at that moment and deliver, you know, what you had to do? Like, you can't control whether that number one team was going to lose or not, but you guys had to do what you had to do. How did you guys stay focused when you didn't know if the outcome was going to be what it was in the end?
Right. I think a lot has to do with, you know, we went through a lot of adversity during the fall of that year. You know, we lost a couple of good pieces to our team due to eligibility reasons. So we were already kind of scraping a little bit and trying to find a new identity, because once you lose like a starting shortstop and one of your top arms, that sets the whole year back a little bit. You know what I mean? So we were kind of going through it a little bit the whole season. And then towards the end, you know, we had a lot of guys who were seniors. So, and a lot of the starters were seniors, including myself. And then we were, you know, when I told you we won those first two games, we ended up losing one game. The next game, real bad. We got smacked in our because we was just
around,
enjoying it like too much. Just the time in Alabama, you know, that this minor league stadium, this beautiful stadium, the hotels, they feeding the fuck out of us every day. You know what I mean? So it was
intentional
just like,
too. They're giving you the best of
yeah,
everything.
right. So, and then our coach, he pulled us to the pool while we was at the hotel. He was like, this shit got to stop. We ain't come here to just have fun. And I know we off to a good start, but we just got embarrassed by a team who wasn't even, who couldn't mess with us on a good day. He had to talk. He cut into everybody. People that ain't do shit, people that didn't play. He pointing fingers. He holding everybody accountable.
Yeah.
And we all just looking like, man, hey, tomorrow we got to go out. And that was the determining game right there. And we came out rolling, like straight to it. No talking or nothing.
Now, how do you make the transition from being in baseball, pursuing that dream, to now you're doing this dope podcast, you're doing a lot of social, helping with mental health issues, you're taking on some topics that a lot of people need to have conversations about, but they're scared of? Like, how do you make that transition into the podcast game?
I think for me, it was, I'm not going to say it was easy, but I always knew that I could do it for the simple fact of, during this season that we were just talking about, that's, I was fresh of losing my mother. She passed away a few months before that. So just being able to navigate that aspect, and then, people see me go through these things, right? But, I'm not the type to wear it on my sleeve all the time, right? So people see me kind of fighting and going through it. And then, but I'm not talking about it. So they like, a lot of people looking at me like, man, how is he even existing right now? So for me with the podcast, I woke up one day, man, and I was just like, I'm tired of holding it in type of thing. So I kind of knew people, and I knew it would, make the impact that it's doing now, and people would gravitate toward it, because whenever I do speak, people always listen. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes I was reserved a lot, during my life, but once I start talking, it's all ears. So I knew if I, stepped into this lane a little bit, I knew it could, benefit me, and it can help me at the end of the day. So that's what it was about.
Yeah, sorry to hear about your mother passing. I know it was close to when you were graduating, close to when you won the championship. I know it's got to be an emotional thing for you to lose your mom, but you got to stay focused to those commitments that were your goals. How do you get through that? A lot of people, they lose somebody close to them and they shut down and they give up on scholarships. They give up on dreams they had because that loved one's not there. How did you push through that, even though I know it was difficult?
Man, I'm gonna be honest with you, Matt. I mean, to this day, I never have a direct or straightforward answer with that. I really think it was just God helping me through that way. You know what I mean? Because I was this close. My mom passed in December, and I got to go back to school in January. I was this close to just going ghost on my coach and not even, going ghost on everybody. You feel me? Because that was hard, man. Like just picking back up and just continuing life like that. But I just did it because I knew if I would have never went back to school or, and been around my teammates and stuff, who knows where I would have been, man. Because I was real suicidal at that time too. So I just feel like for me, I just needed a distraction. I needed to be doing something.
Yeah, idle hands.
I didn't care what it was, but I was like, I need to be doing something. And it helped over time, and it was tough because I got to be around people all 24/7 after going through something like that. So that was a challenge in itself. But, I took the time, to take care of myself and to step away if I needed and cry when I needed, for real. But it was a tough transition, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like, I'm still dealing with it, Yeah.
Now, do you have siblings? Are you only child? Or paint the picture for people who's not familiar with your story. When you lose your mom, are you now the man of the house, so to speak? What's your role at that time?
I'm the youngest of 9, but so all of my siblings, they were out the house, off the porch, way before, I was even grown. So it definitely, started some dysfunction with my family, I would say.
Well, I gotta imagine it's hard though, because if you're the youngest, you're the baby, and even though you're doing amazing things, you're out of Detroit, you're in college, you're a baseball star on the rise, but losing your mom is very difficult because you're so close to her. I'm sure they are older and stuff like that. How did the conversations go for you when you were looking for somebody to lean on? Like if your mom's not there, who did you call, or did you have your teammates there, your coaches? Like who were some of the people you're sounding boards to help you get through that?
Man, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't have nobody to turn to at the time, man.
Okay.
I really didn't. I had people, I had people that I didn't feel comfortable talking to. I would say that, you know what I mean? I had a few people, and when this happened, when I went back to school, I didn't even tell my coach for like 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So that was like, that was a mind game that I was playing with myself, because I didn't really have the courage to just say, yo, this just happened. You know what I mean? I just went through it, and I kind of pushed away a lot of the help that I probably could have had at the time, honestly, just because I was battling.
Because you want to be strong. We come from where we come from. They tell you to stand up on your own, be strong, and you're not okay to cry or ask for help. So yeah, I can imagine that.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of what it was. And I ain't really had nobody. I would just, that was a real lonely time for me for a few months, for real.
So how does it feel now? Like with your podcast, I've watched a few of the episodes, and you're able to have conversations like this for other people. So now you're becoming that sounding board. When you didn't have someone, now you've kind of created a lane for yourself to be that. Like, how are you enjoying that space? And, what made you take on this role? Because it's a lot of risk involved to hear people open up these stories and tell some of these struggles they've been through, but you've had some really dope guests come on and talk about it. So how are you dealing with that?
Yeah, it's a bittersweet feeling, man, because I never thought that I would be the person that someone, can lean on and touch on certain things, because I've always needed that and I wanted it. But when I became that, I was just like, damn, like, all right, life is moving fast. You know what I mean? So I think it was meant to be, honestly, because people feel safe talking to me for some reason, man. People have always felt that way. So when it happened, it was a surprise, but it wasn't a surprise at the same time. So like, I'm still, getting used to that. But now, like, a lot of people reaching out to me, bro. So now I really don't have a choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to do it.
I know how I feel, for people not to feel like they can talk about certain things. So I don't wish that on nobody, for real.
And I see you have the cross. I'm not going to go too much into your faith, but I'm a believer that things happen for a reason. So unfortunately, maybe your mom had to pass at that moment to make you a stronger person, so you could get through all the stuff you had to get through, because God has a plan for you to be the voice. Somebody who can tell those stories and help people feel at ease. Because imagine I'm a baseball fan watching you just pitch that strike to win the championship. Little do I know, as a kid, you lost your mom right now. And if I knew that about you, maybe I've lost my mom too. And that's a bigger connection than just the baseball. But seeing my idol go through some of these struggles you've gone through. When you started this podcast, what was the first steps to it for? A lot of people want to start podcasts. So what did you do? Did you get a camera? Did you get, walk us through the stages a little bit?
Yeah. So initially I had bought some wireless Rode mics, and I was going to use my iPhone, but I didn't really like how it looked when I started recording, bro. So I just scraped it. You feel me? So, and then I was just looking for studios near me at the time. At the time I was in Oakland. I was playing ball out there. And I was looking for studios, couldn't really find nothing. And then one day I found something that looked cool. I just took a risk and booked it. It was like $150. I booked it for the next week, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't know what I'm about to do. Like, I don't know how none of this work or nothing. So I just, you feel me? I just talked to God about it. I didn't think about it. And then when the day come, the studio came, the booking session came, the dude, Aaron, shout out to Bay Area Podcast Studio, man. He was real cool. And then he thought I already had a podcast because he accidentally typed the wrong at for the Instagram, because I had made a page and stuff. So he saw it and he was like a little confused. I'm like, nah, that's the wrong one. You know what I mean? So he was like, oh, so you ain't never done that? I'm like, nah, not really. So it was just that I booked a professional studio because I wanted, a certain look again. And then, from there, it was just like, okay, I need this. I need to repeat this.
Yeah. Now you've been doing it for 6 months. So behind the scenes, what's some of the things you've learned along the way? Maybe you had to get an editor, or you had to get somebody to do graphics. Like, what's some of the things you didn't anticipate when you started the podcast, but now 6 months in, you learned it and it's making the podcast smoother for you?
I would say everything that comes with it, man. No, when I first started out, I didn't even have a YouTube channel. I had the episode on the hard drive. Didn't even realize I needed a YouTube if I wanted a visual, so I had to create the YouTube. Instagram already had that, and just learning how to post and posting at the right time and certain captions. It's a lot of things start tacking on. I'm like, oh shit, this is real. Like, you know what I mean? So, and then my guy Aaron out there in Oakland, he was the one who was editing my episodes, the first 2 or 3 episodes for me, because at the time, I didn't really have I didn't have a machine that was powerful enough. But now, just learning everything that I know, you know what I mean? I know how to produce my own show now. So every episode from I want to say 6, and excluding Sam's episode, because I did that at a studio. That's all the episodes that I've done, and that came with a lot of trial and error too, because I was new to cameras. They overheated plenty of times. I didn't have to restart. You feel me, like that? And I'm learning how to edit my own stuff a little better now. So it's a lot. The graphics, I do everything.
You do everything in house.
I do everything in house now. At this point, but it's been a lot of fun moments for sure. Yeah. But it's definitely a learning curve for those out there who try.
That's the hard part too, because when you go into podcasting, you don't anticipate that the camera will burn out if you use it too much. Like, these are things you kind of learn, but it's always good to control it yourself, because if you're booking studio time, what if that studio's closed the day you're supposed to come through and you've got your dream guests showing up? So I'm glad that you've taken ownership of it and kind of doing it yourself. You had some dope guests, Sam Basquiat, to start out with. How did you guys meet, and what made you want to help tell his story on your show?
Yeah, man, I always knew Sam, man. We from the same. I moved to Inkster when I was a kid. That's down the street from Detroit. I moved to the projects out there, and I always knew his family before I knew him. You know what I mean? Like, I would see him, but I didn't really know who he was that much. But my Cash the Barber, I grew up with him like from preschool, you know what I mean? And that was his people's, you know what I mean? So it was real close knit, but like, again, we started coming around each other a little later in life, and we just always been cool. We went to the same college, you know what I'm saying? He was playing football, I was playing baseball at the time, and we went through that struggle a little bit. He didn't been in my house, plenty of his cousins stayed with me. It's all, you know what I mean? So we always, that's like my brother for real. So when he the one reached out to me, he was like, man, I really fuck with it, because I was gonna have him on there anyway. He just ain't know. You feel me? So he reached out to me. He was like, man, let's do it. And I was like, man, bet. You know what I mean? So he put everything together for me for real. He been supported. He been a true supporter, even before he was on the show. So yeah.
It says a lot when your friends reach out to you because they see what you're doing and they want to tie it into what they're doing. Like, if you're both on doing some dope stuff, then somebody has to humble themselves to make that call. So him calling you, it showed you, hey, I'm doing something right, because Sam's doing some amazing stuff right now. So for him to want to be on your podcast, when he told you the story about Fashion Nova, I think that's a gem that a lot of people need to learn in this business world. Did you already know that, or was you kind of learning that on the spot? And how was he reacting to that, terrible situation that he went through?
Yeah, so when the events first transpired, which I want to say was 22, I didn't know much about it. Yeah, because at the time, that was when I was navigating the whole grieving thing. So I wasn't really talking to people like that, but I talked to them periodically, and I knew a little bit. But then when we reconnected, a little last year, heavy, on the heavy side, I learned more about it. And you would have never known that he was going through something like that, because the brand was continuing to take off and grow and just become what it is. And again, like, he made that look so well just behind the scenes going through it. But when he got a chance to express to me even outside of the podcast, because he touched on it a little bit, it was real. It was some real emotion behind that, because that's something that'll turn anybody up if somebody try to, play with you like that, especially with your business and brand. So he was really, really vocal about it for sure. And I'm glad that he's come to a point where it's, handled, I would say.
Yeah.
So,
So learning from that lesson, you being a podcaster now and being a baseball person, I'm sure you've got jerseys and all that stuff. How do you handle intellectual property now? And do you have, agreements in place before you start talking to people about business so you can protect yourself?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I'm still learning the business side. I worked at corporate, so I didn't really. I'm new to the entrepreneurship, the business side, a lot of it, but Sam actually was the one who, kind of put me on game after an episode. We had chopped it up. He was telling me to watermark my videos. And I'm like, what you mean? Like, he was telling me if something go viral, somebody repost, ain't nobody gonna know who you are. So that small tip right there just made me realize that, okay, ownership is, really everything. And, after that, I started, to get my designs done. I'm working with different people behind the scenes on some things. I'm like, hey, man, send those documents over, like send that paperwork before we do anything. Because I don't like getting into the, I don't really like getting into, conflict with people, man. That shit it takes a toll on you for sure. So yeah, I was definitely still learning though.
It's hard because I can tell you're a good spirited person like I am. And when you introduce those conversations, people get a little fuzzy. But if you don't have that conversation, if you get blessed by God and make $1 million, then there's going to be a fight anyway. So it's good to have those conversations. Now you're getting your master's degree now too. So what's it like getting your master's degree? And is your podcast encouraging you to go into more of a psychology, or is that the lane you're trying to go into more, like becoming a therapist or something like that with what you're doing?
No, actually, so I got my master's in 2023, May of 23. Oh, okay. So yeah, I've had it for a little while, and it's it's a computer science degree, so it's totally unrelated to the podcast. But this is like the podcast is really something that I really enjoy doing. It's just something, another thing that I picked up. You know what I mean? Just being able to talk now at this point and healing and just growing and being able to have conversations. So yeah, it was totally unrelated to the the education part, but yeah.
Now, do you you're in the mental health podcast space? Like, there's a big void for that. Shout out to Joe Budden when he was first starting; he was real big on that. Shout out to Eric Thomas out of Detroit, real big on your mind and stuff like that. Do you see that as a lane you're going to be able to go into? And then I'm thinking back of all the players you were in baseball with. Everybody has a story of struggling and overcoming the odds and these things. So I definitely think it's a great lane you have for helping people who are deemed to be viewed successful tell that story of the struggle they went through to get to that point. And then, we all see the person pitching the baseball as the star, but you had a lot of trials and tribulations to get to that point. Like, is that something you're thinking like long term with the podcast? Are you thinking that far out, or just kind of episode to episode as it goes?
Yeah, no, that's definitely, where I envision this going. Like, I want to be a staple in this space because to me, it's time for it to be normalized. You know what I mean? To talk about, all of these things, and I've walked probably every, aspect of life. I can relate to just about anybody. Right. So, and everybody I talk to, and no matter where I met them at, we all have the same feeling about something, or we talk about things and we really don't talk about them. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we bottling up a lot of trauma, a lot of hurt, man. So yeah, it's just time to talk about it. So yeah, I definitely see it going in that direction for the future for sure.
Yeah, I love that for you. I seen you made a post about holidays being tough time. It's the loneliest time of the year. Unfortunately, you've lost a lot of people during the holidays. How can people help people like you who have lost people during the holidays? Like, we have families, we're worried about our loved ones, but what can we do to look out for our friends that may have lost someone, or just touch base with them to check in? What do you advise in that situation?
Yeah, man. I mean, everybody's different, man. But I think starting with the basics, just reach out. Let them know that you see them and that you're there in any way that you can support them, right? Because you can't support everybody, and everybody doesn't want support at a certain time. So I know for me, if somebody just send me a quick text or whatever, slide up on my Instagram story, let me know that they care just a little bit. That goes a long way. And most people don't have that. So I would just say, just try to treat them like, just treat them with genuine love, man, and let them know that you there in some aspect. So yeah,
I agree. Now we've highlighted a lot of your career, things I saw on your Instagram stuff. Anything that really stands out to you, either a kid turning into the baseball realm or getting your degree? Like, what's one of the highlights for your podcast career or baseball career that you want to highlight?
Man, I definitely, just want to highlight the growth as a person that I've been on since the death of my mother. Like you spoke on a few minutes ago, that probably needed to happen to me, you know what I mean? To shape me a little bit more in life. So, I'm excited to see what's in store for me, you know, just on a personal development level. So that's been really the highlight of everything. You know what I mean? Right. Obviously the podcast is good. Baseball is cool. You know what I mean? Meeting new people, whatever. But just seeing myself looking back a year ago and looking now, it's like a totally different person. So, you know, I've still got a lot of work to do, of course, just like anybody else, but I'm excited the most about that part.
Yeah. Now, when does your podcast air? Like, is there a certain day of the week, month, and where do people go to check it out so they can go support you?
Yeah, so right now, every 2 weeks, release an episode. I'm gonna try to start releasing an episode every week, solo episodes every week, but expect guests on there roughly every 2 to 3 weeks. I got some special guests coming up. You can catch the podcast on every major streaming platform: Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, and on YouTube for the visuals, and Instagram, TikTok for the, you know, the short clips and the social media presence.
That's dope. And then what do you do in your community? How are some of the things you're doing to give back, or anything you're doing for your community?
Right now, I'm a volunteer assistant baseball coach, you know, at a college. Shout out to Harris State University in St. Louis, Missouri. So
that's dope.
One of my good friends, PJ, shout out to Coach PJ. He hit me and asked me if I could, you know, just help around just a little bit with something. So that's been my way of volunteering my time. And sometimes a little money is involved here and there, but it ain't really about that. But that's really how I can give back to, you know, my alma mater. That's one of the schools that I graduated for, and to help a good friend of mine. So it's, you know, it's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. And then if you're not doing your podcast or baseball, what do you like to do for fun? If you got downtime to yourself, what are you doing to enjoy it?
Yeah, so I like to, you know, work out, and I actually work a 9 to 5. I work in tech, so I work throughout early mornings, afternoons. So I'm kind of busy throughout the whole day for real. But I step away and read a little bit, but mostly working out and watching TV for sure. Like, I love TV, so yeah.
I seen you know, have a pretty intense workout being an athlete as you are. So all of us novice people, 2025, we made resolutions. We want to work out. Any tips you can give us on, you know, something we could do to help with that?
I mean, for beginners, I would say, man, start with something that you know you can maintain for at least a month straight, man. You know, whether that's, you know, going on a walk, getting on a treadmill, you know, start out with something that you can be consistent with. And after that, you know, just step it up a notch. But man, you don't have to, you know, do all this crazy stuff that you see on the internet or whatever. You know, simplify it to meet your needs, and that's it.
Yeah. They say just do something. That's do
something.
Make it so hard, but do something every day. And if you do it consistently, it'll work out for you. Now, what do you want to say to your fans and supporters, the people who have been on the podcast or who've tuned into it and checked it out for you? What do you want to say to them before we get out of here?
Yeah, man, I definitely thank you again for having me on, man. And shout out to everybody who's been supporting me, man. I appreciate y'all rocking with me and actually being able to relate. And, you know, the support has just been unmatched, man. It was unexpected to me, for real, because I created this for myself. So I just want to say thank you, everybody, for supporting me and putting different pieces together for me behind the scenes. Shout out to Sincere. Shout out to Sam. You know, shout out to everybody who've been supporting me and, you know, just being genuine. So, yeah, I appreciate y'all. More content coming soon. I was sick for a little bit. So, yeah, that's why, you know, I ain't been on the presence a little bit. But, yeah.
Now, is there a person you're shooting for to have an interview with? Like, let's speak it into existence for you. If you could get 2 names, who would they be?
Right now, Sada Baby.
Sada.
Sada Baby, and probably I don't know right now, but Sada Baby definitely one of them, because I've been hearing them talk about some things lately, you know, sparking a lot of conversation. So you never know what somebody's going through, but yeah, that's definitely one for now. But I got some conversations going for sure.
Yeah, say not to say too much, but one of the people you mentioned in this conversation has a direct plug to that person. So you know what I mean? I can't say
it. I'm already know it.
Well, man, I really appreciate this conversation tonight. I'm a big fan of your podcast. I think it's needed to have these conversations. I've really enjoyed the positivity that you have, even though you've been through some struggles. You're a positive role model on what can happen if you just keep going, man. So I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great night, fam.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you, man. Have a good night.
Yep. Salute.